I hooked up with Cody Co when I was 17 and he was 25. Yeah, it happened.
Well, guys, it's happened again. Once again, a formerly beloved YouTuber is having terrible things come out about them, and this time around, it is pretty surprising. This is honestly getting kind of old, guys. Over the last 24 hours or so, I have gotten multiple DMs and many comments of people asking me to talk about something that they were referring to as the Cody Co situation. Now, when I woke up this morning, I was unaware of any quote Cody Co situation going on, so you can imagine my surprise when I typed in Cody Co situation onto Twitter. It's not great. Now, real quick before we get into all that, I would like to apologize if the audio of this video does not sound too delicious. I'm not at home right now, I'm out of town, and I'm recording in a space that is not exactly prepared for recording. I feel like there's going to be a ton of echo, but I can't really tell because whenever I play it back, I'm just hearing the echo from the actual room, so hopefully it's not too bad. However, what is pretty bad are the things that Cody Co has allegedly done. Now, if you don't know who Cody Co is, he is a very popular commentary YouTuber. Not quite commentary in the way that I do it, I don't think. I don't really feel like our channels are lumped into the same group. Think more like Curtis Connor, Jarvis Johnson, those kind of guys. He is that genre, if you will, of commentary YouTuber, and he's been one of the biggest ones for quite some time at this point. And even if you couldn't put a name to a face, you've probably seen his videos with Noel Miller. The dude is a pretty big name on the internet. And yesterday, a YouTuber named D'Angelo Wallace made a video titled An Uncomfortable Conversation About Cody Co, where he talks about a situation involving Cody Co that apparently many YouTubers have refused to talk about. Now, earlier when I said this situation was so surprising to me, it was not because it involves Cody Co. I know literally nothing about the guy, so it's not surprising to me that he's a bad person. What's so surprising to me is how old this information is and how few people have talked about it up until this point. What we're talking about is allegedly years ago, a 25-year-old Cody Co slept with a 17-year-old Tana Mongeau, another popular internet social media figure. Now, if you've never heard of Tana Mongeau, she is a social media model, comedian, influencer lady who is known for being pretty controversial. That's important. Now, from what I understand, from what I've been reading, apparently this whole situation has sort of been an open secret for a long time, like years. For context, today Cody Co is 33, so this happened like 8 years ago. And apparently, a lot of people in this space of like the sort of influencer gone celebrity sphere have known about this since it happened. But this really became a much bigger thing to the general public, I guess you could call it, when about a month ago, Tana Mongeau hosted a live episode of her podcast in front of an actual audience, where she was asked the question, who was the smallest dick you ever had sex with? To which she answered, Cody Co, I was 17.
Who's the smallest dick you ever had sex with?
Oh my God, no one look at me, Cody Co. I can say that, I was literally 17, I can say that.
Now, obviously, once she said this, a lot of people took notice. It's not very hard to do the math there and come to the conclusion of, oh, okay, well, that shouldn't have happened. Now, once this started to spread, Tana Mongeau and Cody Co being two names as big as they both are, apparently, it was a pretty big thing on the internet. That's what other people's videos are saying, but I'm gonna be honest, I never saw a single thing about this, which is something we're gonna talk more about later. But after this happened, it didn't take much time, about 3 weeks ago at this point, for Tana to address this further on her podcast, where she said this.
Because it really was like at every other show we were saying the craziest shit about people and it wasn't being brought to light. And however, I understand that this isn't just some crazy tea. It was a crime.
Yeah.
And I've tried to talk about this a million times and I feel like I never have the right words. But it's everywhere all over the internet. And I know people want me to talk about it. And I'm going to do my best right now, you know? I mean, I hooked up with Cody Co when I was 17 and he was 25. Yeah, it happened. It is, I definitely am like, why was he doing that? You know what I mean? And there were so many situations. There was a situation with Gabby Hanna at a Playlist Live where she pulled him aside and told him like, yo, she's 17. And then we still went and hooked up. And I can look at that and be like, like, why the fuck were you doing that? But there isn't a part of me, at least at 25 now. I mean, I look back and I would never do anything like that. So I'm like, what the fuck was wrong with you?
Yeah.
But I don't associate or hold it with trauma because I am such a comparative person where I'm like, so many worse things have happened to me. I was just hooking up with people and having so much fun. And like, that's the way my mind, because I grew up loving him. And I think you know what I mean? Like I was just like excited and a fan and like, And I understand that that's where now as a grown adult, you can say you were taken advantage of. But like, I don't feel any of those emotions towards it. So that's why it's like, it's much easier to be like, go crucify someone when you feel those emotions.
Of course.
You know?
So yeah, pretty gross shit. Now it's important to keep in mind that obviously right now these are just allegations. As far as I know, none of this has made it to the legal system and none of this is being investigated. So this is just one person's claim against another person, but this has been corroborated by quite a few people. And it's not just people trying to hop on the bandwagon, get a little bit of clout. This stuff, like I said, has been going on for years and it's been talked about for that amount of time as well. It's just never really made it to the front pages like it is now, but there have been talks of this situation throughout the years. It seems pretty unlikely this did not happen. So what we're looking at here is a situation where Cody Co, a 25-year-old man, knowingly hooked up with a 17-year-old girl. That is the claim that Tana Mongeau is making here. Now I've seen a lot of discourse on the internet, people talking about the morality of this, but it doesn't really matter. I personally do not think a 25-year-old should be messing around with a 17-year-old, legal or not. Today I have learned a lot of people on Twitter do not see it that way, which is a little bit concerning, but whether or not you think it's okay or not, it doesn't matter. This allegedly took place in Florida. If this happened, it is statutory rape. It's a felony. It doesn't matter if you think it's okay or not. It is a crime in the eyes of the law. Tana Mongeau is accusing Cody Co of doing something very serious here. This is not some petty internet drama. This is potential years in prison if this ever went to court and was found to be true. Now again, with all that being said, it is important to remember that these are allegations. This is somebody saying this happened and not really providing anything else to back that up other than other people saying it happened as well. As far as I know, there is no proof that this happened. It doesn't really matter how believable this looks. It doesn't matter how much you hate Cody Co and you think, yeah, he definitely did it. It's important to keep in mind when stuff like this happens that anybody can say anything, and immediately jumping to the conclusion that this has to be true can be dangerous. People's lives have been ruined like this. However, with all that being said, right now this situation looks really bad for Cody, even if there's no solid evidence. This, in my opinion, is for a few reasons, the biggest of them all being, like we've said, this has been a thing that people have known about for more than the last month. When Tana brought this back up at that live podcast recording, it shot it back into the spotlights, but like we've established, this is really nothing new. Now, with that being said, I think it's a pretty fair statement to make that generally, if you're a public figure, and there's a rumor floating around out there that you committed a pretty serious crime against a person, that is something that at some point you would address. Now look, it would be different if this last month was all we had to go off of, because a month in a situation like this is really not that long. When you're a public figure like Cody Co is, addressing something like this is something you don't do on a whim. So it would be one thing if this came out of nowhere and people started saying, okay, we've seen everything we need to see, we all know Cody Co is guilty, fuck that guy. But again, that's not what's happening here. This is a situation that has been brewing for a long time, and now it's just starting to get in front of everybody. Which begs the question, why has Cody never addressed this? Now, we've talked about the burden of proof before on this channel, how if you're going to accuse somebody of doing something, you have to prove they did it. You can't just accuse somebody of doing something and say, okay, now prove you didn't, because most of the time that's going to be impossible. So at the end of the day, it's not really Cody Co's responsibility to prove that he did not do this. However, even if that's true, I think we can all probably agree that if you did not do something like this, and people all over the internet have been saying that you did for years, at some point you would probably want to address it, right? I'm not saying you need to do a deep dive proving that you did not do it, because like I said, you don't really have to. Anybody can be accused of anything, but when it's one specific thing that keeps popping up over and over again, something that people in your circle are saying happened, wouldn't you want to say, just for the record, this did not happen? Now, I'm not saying that not doing that makes you guilty, but I am going to say that not doing that does make you look guilty. Now look, like I said, this would be different if this all just came out. When stuff like this happens and people immediately jump to guilty, I like to remind people of what happened to Quite about a year ago. The guy did not immediately address the claims that were made against him. It took him like a week, and in that time, the internet convinced itself that people would never lie about stuff like this. Allegations like this don't just come out of nowhere, so Quiet has to be guilty. Guess what? He wasn't. So I don't think a person not addressing things immediately really means anything. I do think a person not addressing anything for years does mean something. I think once you compound this with Cody Ko's other behavior, it gets worse. There's been documentation of Cody Ko mass deleting any comments that refer to this situation. When you are not only refusing to acknowledge these very serious allegations against you, but you are also doing everything within your power to actively suppress anybody from talking about it, it's a really bad look. Now, another thing that I think is sort of muddying the waters here is that Tana Mongeau is a very controversial figure, and Cody Ko, for the most part, is very popular and very well liked. There is a non-ignorable aspect of this situation where the person being accused of this is a relatively well-liked person with a pretty clean public image, whereas the accuser is almost the direct opposite. Tana Mongeau is really not liked that much on the internet, and her shtick is being controversial. But no matter how much you dislike her, regardless of what you think of her and her content, it doesn't change the fact that a 17-year-old is a 17-year-old, and a 25-year-old is a 25-year-old. However, I think that Tana Mongeau being who she is, and Cody Ko being who he is, has prevented a lot of people from talking about this, or even taking it seriously to begin with. And I think Cody Ko has been using this to his advantage to continuously sweep this under the rug, but I don't think that's really going to work anymore. I think this has officially gotten in front of too many eyes, and most people are not going to be willing to ignore this. At some point, Cody's either going to have to admit he did this, apologize, and then hope for the best, claim innocence, and then see what Tana does, or continue to ignore it and risk losing his audience. I really don't see this going any other way. When you are in a situation like Cody is, when you are making this much money off of being a public figure when that's your life, this is not one of those things you can just ignore. Sure, he's gotten away with it for a long time, but I don't think that's going to be the case moving forward. Shout out to D'Angelo Wallace for doing his part to start up this discussion. I don't think I would have ever heard about this otherwise. Well, guys, what do you think? Is this something you were aware of before this week? Because I'm still shocked that just now this is becoming as big of a thing as it's become. I've been doing some digging just trying to get some more information on all of this, and I mean, there are Reddit posts dating back like 3 or 4 years ago talking about this happening. The fact that this is just now making it to the masses is pretty concerning. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and walk on over to that subscribe button and touch it. It's free. It won't cost you anything. But for now, that's all I have for you today. Bye.